Welcome to Palestine Files. I'm your host, Wissam Bahrani. Once again, we see Israeli politics being played out in the Oval Office, in the White House, in Washington, D.C. Ahead of Israeli elections in March, rivals for the Prime Minister's post, Benjamin Netanyahu and Benny Gantz, have traveled to the United States. They have met the US President, who has unveiled the long-awaited deal of the century. Donald Trump's initiative to solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Trump is trying to achieve something where all his predecessors failed. Netanyahu has hailed the plan as a once-in-a-lifetime initiative. Gantz says it will go down in history, but will it? Palestinians called Trump's proposal dead in the water before its publications. Why? The negotiations, the talks to devise this plan were conducted between Tel Aviv and Washington. There has been no diplomatic contact between the Palestinians and Washington. The Palestinians have been put aside in all this. They say Washington is no longer a fair broker in the Middle East conflict and that this deal is heavily biased in favor of Tel Aviv. When you put the main player in all this to one side, is that a just and fair way to form a peace initiative? We're going to look into that and more on this edition of Palestine Files. We're going to dissect Trump's proposal and give a voice to the Palestinians. No one else seems to be. After years of speculation, leaks and rumors, the White House has finally published its long-awaited so-called deal of the century.
Under this vision, Jerusalem will remain Israel's undivided, very important, undivided capital. My vision presents a win-win opportunity for both sides, a realistic two-state solution that resolves the risk of Palestinian statehood to Israel's security. Peace requires compromise, but we will never ask Israel to compromise its security. Can't do that.
Your historic decisions to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital, to recognize Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights, to reaffirm Israel's legal claims in Judea and Samaria. Mr. President, I believe that down the decades, and perhaps down the centuries, we will also remember January 28th, 2020, because on this day, you became the first world leader to recognize Israel's sovereignty over areas in Judea and Samaria that are vital to our security and central to our heritage.
Palestinian anger over Donald Trump's so-called deal of the century is not subsiding. They have not been invited to the White House event where the US President unveiled his initiative.
Concerning the invitation of Netanyahu and Gantz, we have nothing to do with this issue. This is an internal American-Israeli issue. Both the three of them should understand that they should come to Ramallah. This is the address for peace based on the international legality. Palestinian state on the land occupied in 1967 with East Jerusalem as its capital. This is the only way for peace. This is the only way if they are serious, if they are looking for stability in the whole region.
الآن عما يسمى بصفقة القرن يؤكد إصرار الولايات المتحدة على المشاركة في العدوان على شعبنا الفلسطيني وحقوقه الثابتة، وأنها تتبنى رؤية اليمين الصهيوني في تل أبيب. نستطيع أن نقول وبكل ثقة أن شعبنا بمقاومته لن يسمح بتمرير أي صفقة تنتقص من حقوق شعبنا الفلسطيني، وسيواصل مقاومته الشاملة حتى انتزاع كامل حريته.
Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammed Shataya has urged international powers to boycott the plan. Shataya says it's not a Middle East peace plan. This plan gives Israel sovereignty over Palestinian territory. Palestinian leaders have also warned that instead of bringing peace, the plan could trigger their withdrawal from key provisions of the decades-old Oslo Accords. In a statement, the Palestinian Foreign Ministry said Trump's plan is the plot of the century to liquidate the Palestinian cause. Benjamin Netanyahu has been very quick to praise the US president over what many say is another gift for the Israeli premier who faces corruption charges back home.
Thank you for everything you've done for Israel, for recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital, for moving your embassy there, for recognizing our sovereignty in the Golan Heights, for recognizing our rights in Judea, Samaria, the heartland of our biblical homeland, for the unprecedented security and intelligence cooperation between our two countries. I think, Mr. President, the list of your support for Israel, the things you've done for Israel since you've become president is very long, but the bottom line is short.
At the same time, the US president is facing an impeachment trial in the Senate. Any distractions from his domestic issues may very well come as a welcome break. What are the main points of this deal of the century? Well, we see the annexation of 60% of the occupied West Bank, Israeli sovereignty over all of occupied Jerusalem al-Quds, let alone East Jerusalem al-Quds, the annexation of the Jordan Valley, a demand that all Palestinians fully recognize Israel. It demilitarizes Palestinian resistance forces who are facing Israeli aggression and war crimes according to the International Court of Justice. Palestinians must accept all these demands and no right of return for Palestinian refugees, a right enshrined under international law. The plan also involves a limited exchange of land. It doesn't sound very balanced, does it? And that's the bare minimum. The Israeli reports suggest that there are more negative aspects facing the Palestinians under this peace, so-called peace initiative. Now, according to this case study, Palestinian leaders argue the deal of the century is the beginning of a process which aims to erase the Palestinian cause.
بالتأكيد صفقة القرن هي تكريس لاتفاق أوسلو، أو هي محاولة لاستكمال ما لم يحققه اتفاق أوسلو. هي محاولة لتصفية القضية الفلسطينية بشكل كامل وفرض الاستسلام على الأمة كلها. أما بالنسبة للتوقيت فبالتأكيد هم يرون الفلسطينيين منشغلون بخلافاتهم الداخلية أولا، ويرون المنطقة العربية تعيش حالة من التشتت والتفتت، ويرون كثيرا من العرب منشغلين بقضايا محلية عندهم، إضافة إلى أن بعض الدول العربية تعقد أحلافا وتحالفات مع أمريكا وتحاول مغازلة إسرائيل. إذن هذا هو الجو المثالي لإعلان خطة السلام الأمريكية المعروفة باسم صفقة القرن لتصفية القضية الفلسطينية بشكل كامل وإنهاء أي شكل من أشكال المعارضة والمقاومة للمشروع الأمريكي الإسرائيلي. هذا ما يظنونه هم، لكن هل ستمضي الأمور بهذا الشكل؟ في السابق كانت هناك محاولات مستمرة لضرب الفلسطينيين وإنهاء القضية الفلسطينية وفرض الاستسلام على الأمة. تلك المحاولات لم تنجح، ونحن على يقين بإذن الله أن المحاولة هذه المرة لن تنجح. هذه الأمة رغم حالة التشتت التي تعيشها ورغم الفوضى التي تعم في المنطقة، هذه الأمة لا يمكن أن تستسلم.
Anger is mounting in the Gaza Strip, where Palestinians held a day of rage in opposition to the so-called deal of the century. They burnt an effigy of US President Donald Trump. Trump's effigy was also placed on a wood cross with Israeli and American flags hanging from both its hands. Activists of the Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine rallied outside a United Nations office in Gaza City in protest. A senior Palestinian official urged the United Nations to intervene to stop what he described as US aggression against the national rights of the Palestinian people.
صفقة القرن بالتالي هو يضع كل المنطقة على حافة بركان، وبالتالي ستتحمل الإدارة الأمريكية وإسرائيل المسؤولية الكاملة عن ثورة الشعب الفلسطيني والشعوب في مواجهة صفقة القرن الإسقاط.
Protesters also burnt a large sign with pictures of Trump and Britain's Arthur James Balfour, and bearing the words "Deal of the Past, Balfour," and "Deal of the Present, Trump," in reference to the UK's declaration decades ago announcing the establishment of Israel. Similar rallies were held in other places in occupied Palestine. It's a very serious issue, so without further ado, let's bring in journalist and activist Khalid Barakat. Mr. Barakat, welcome to Palestine Files. Firstly, tell us about the significance of revealing the deal of the century at this time.
It is not really significant, and I'll say it's worthless because it is rejected by all Palestinians. All Palestinian political parties have expressed their rejection, from the far right to the far left, across the board. Palestinians will not deal with this so-called deal of the century because it is the U.S. attempt to end the cause of Palestine and to liquidate the cause of the Palestinian people and Palestinian rights. So it is not significant at all from our point of view, but it is, however, dangerous because what it does is it rallied publicly some of the Arab reactionary regimes, particularly some of the Gulf countries, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain. They are the one who were marketing this so-called deal of the century, and under the table also the Jordan and Egypt. So it is dangerous in terms of making the Palestinian people deal with or forcing the Palestinian people to deal with a project that attempts to end their cause and their rights.
Okay, now some points as part of the deal of the century include Israeli sovereignty over all of occupied Jerusalem, Al-Quds. Will the Palestinians ever accept this?
The Palestinians will never accept any deal that or any solution that will disregard their rights in Jerusalem. Jerusalem is very central for the obvious reasons. However, there are attempts to make Jerusalem as an issue of conflict between religions, and it's really dangerous thing to do. The issue of Jerusalem is not a conflict between Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. The problem of Jerusalem is the occupation of Jerusalem, is the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians in Jerusalem. It is the constant attacks that Israel carries against Jerusalemites, Palestinians who are daily have to face mass arrests in Jerusalem and demolishing houses. In one action, Israel destroyed 70 houses last year in one day. And these are coming to make Jerusalem an exclusive to Jews and Israelis by saying that Israel is the united capital of Israel, is totally disregards of the Palestinians and the Arabs who lives in Jerusalem, and not just the places and the holy places, but also humans. And so this is a policy that has been carried by Israel for a very long time. And Israel feels that it has a free hand to do whatever it wishes in Jerusalem. Now, unfortunately, we see a lip service response, weak response from the Arab states and the Islamic states in general, whom some of the regimes in the area, like Turkey, for example, or Saudi Arabia or Jordan, who tries to claim rights on Jerusalem and the holy sites, but they really do nothing when it comes to opposing Israeli policies in Jerusalem.
Activist and journalist Khalid Barakat, thank you very much for joining Palestine Files. Now, as you can imagine, Palestinians are furious. Our team spoke to them on the ground in occupied Palestine to get their reaction to the deal of the century. After that, we're going to take a short break and be right back with the rest of the show.
صفقة القرن صفقة حاليا في القرن 21 طرحتها الإدارة الأمريكية برئاسة دونالد ترامب. بلشت باعتقادي انها بلشت باعتراف الولايات المتحده الامريكيه بالقدس عاصمه لدوله اسرائيل، طبعا هذا مناقض تماما للاتفاقيات المبرمه مع الجانب الاسرائيلي، اتفاقيه اوسلو والى اخره.
بالنسبه لصفقه القرن هي عباره عن مشروع امريكي صهيوني لتصفيه القضيه الفلسطينيه، وخاصه موضوع القدس واللاجئين اللي هي هم حاليا بيحاولوا انه يعملوا توطين للاجئين في اماكنهم في المخيمات في الشتات لإنهاء القضية اللي هي صفى فيها عندنا أسرى وقدس ولاجئين، بيحاولوا هم حاليا يصفوها بتوجيهات من ترامب والإدارة الأمريكية بدعم من اللوبي الصهيوني.
بعرف انها صفقة لتهويد القدس وجعلها عاصمة لإسرائيل، مع انهم اعلنوا هذا الشيء مسبقا.
موقفي مثل موقف جميع الشعب الفلسطيني واي انسان عربي رافض لهالمؤامرة، وطبعا يعني اي حدا عنده وطنية وانسانية طبعا راح يرفض هاي المؤامرة على الشعب الفلسطيني واي شعب في العالم. يعني
صفقة القرن هي مؤامرة أمريكية إسرائيلية، يعني إنه الشعب الفلسطيني يعني بيطلع صفر اليدين يعني ولا شيء، يعني كل حقوقه بتضيع. يعني
أن هذه الأرض لا يمر عليها صفقة قرن ولا صفقة قرون ولا صفقات لا كانت موجودة ولا كانت موقع عليها. إحنا اللي بنلغي الصفقات وإحنا اللي بدنا نعمل صفقات.
والجميع بيعرف هي صفقة أمريكية إسرائيلية فاشلة جدا، بحيث أنها تنهي بما يسمى فلسطين.
هي موضوع القدس موضوع بدون صفقة قرن، حق اللاجئين ما بنحكيش فيه، العودة ما بنحكيش فيها.
Welcome back. Let's bring in our second and final guest of the show. Jafar Ramini is a Palestinian writer and political analyst. Mr. Ramini, welcome to Palestine Files. Let's start with the main question here. Will the Palestinians ever accept the deal of the century?
The answer is no. They will never accept it, and it is designed as such. If I just may remind your viewers that in the 1960s, Abba Eban, the then foreign minister of Israel, said the Palestinians don't miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity. Which means they design everything they offer to us to be impossible for any Palestinian leader to accept, including Mr. Abbas, who's doing his best to accommodate them. And then they will say, you see, we gave them peace, we gave them land, and they refused. What are we to do? This is an old trick, and I hope the people in Ramallah are aware of this, and they will let the world know that this is an old trick by the Zionist movement and Israel, always crying wolf and always betraying us as non-partners for peace. I do not understand what Israel wants more than 78% of the historical land of Palestine. No, I do understand. They want 100% without any Palestinians in it.
So, what do you make of the Palestinian reaction to Trump's so-called deal of the century?
Well, it's not a deal, it's a con. They are trying to twist the arms of the PA because PA is dependent on international donors, including the US. And if we look at Mr. Trump, even before he became a president, which is an amazing thing to see, when he visited with AIPAC during his campaign, he said the Palestinians will come to the table. I'll make sure they come to the table. Mr. Trump is an ignorant man. He has no idea about international relations, international foreign policy, or people, and history. He's a total ignorant man. He is a colonial himself. He's a misogynist. He's a narcissist, and he's a racist. He doesn't know the character of us, the Palestinians. We'd rather die standing up and not kneel. And the people of Gaza and the people of Jerusalem, especially the women of Jerusalem, prove this point for anybody who cares to look and listen, that we Palestinians are willing to entertain peace, not surrender.
Jafar Amini, thank you very much for your contribution to Palestine Files. Dear viewers, as you can imagine, this issue has been trending very widely on social media. Let's see what the online community has to say. The deal of the century has made headlines literally across the globe. Let's see what some of those headlines read. So a couple of individuals have rolled out this so-called peace plan at a time when Trump is facing an impeachment trial in the Senate, Netanyahu facing corruption charges, and Gantz accused of war crimes. Well, actually, if you go and study the wider picture, all three can be, in fact, termed as war criminals. Yet they have been allowed to essentially affect the lives of millions of people with this so-called deal of the century. It gives you an idea about the nature of the relationship between the Israeli leaders and the current occupants of the White House. That's all the time we have for on this edition of Palestine Files. See you next week.